Time has a way of making us feel small, as if everyone else is moving ahead faster, accomplishing more, and living by some invisible standard. You scroll past milestones, notice other people's achievements, and suddenly your own journey feels paused, as though progress has left you behind. Yet Stoic philosophy reminds us that life does not move according to a single clock. Every person follows a rhythm that is uniquely their own. Measuring your path against someone else's timeline almost always leads to frustration rather than growth. What truly matters is the timeline you choose to honor through effort, discipline, and presence. Every struggle, every delay, every quiet day spent preparing in silence is not evidence of failure. It is proof that your foundation is being built stronger than others can see. Marcus Aurelius once reflected that the obstacle to action actually advances action. What blocks the path ultimately becomes the path. Feeling behind is rarely the truth. It is a perception shaped by the mind. Your resilience, your development, and the quiet shaping of your character are the true indicators of progress, and no comparison can diminish them. Every moment you dedicate to thoughtful effort, reflection, or learning deepens your journey. What may appear as stillness is often the slow gathering of skill, endurance, and understanding. The world may not notice it, but your internal development continues steadily, silently, and meaningfully. The real challenge is recognizing it, trusting it, and continuing to move forward with intention even when results are not immediately visible. For much of our early lives, we move together, almost as if time itself has a shared rhythm. We wake up for school, move from one grade to another, and measure progress through exams, assignments, and approval from authority figures. The structure feels predictable and even reassuring. There is a path, and following it gives the sense that we are on track. Everyone moves forward together, and belonging reinforces the idea that life follows an orderly pattern. Each achievement becomes a visible checkmark, each milestone a public confirmation that progress is happening. Even failure has limits in this environment. It is contained, expected, and seen as something to correct, rather than something that threatens identity. In those early years, the pace of life is dictated externally, and the illusion of fairness is preserved. We rarely question it. We are told what matters and when it matters, and compliance begins to feel natural, almost inevitable. This alignment creates a rhythm of safety and shared direction. The mind becomes conditioned to believe that success is linear, that steps occur at the same time for everyone, and that life can be measured by a single ruler. Then, eventually, the structure disappears. Exams end, graduation passes, first jobs arrive, and suddenly the pacing is no longer synchronized. Friends move forward, relationships deepen, homes are purchased, families begin to grow, and yet you may feel motionless, as though time itself has moved ahead without you. Milestones that once defined a shared path now become deeply individual. The certainty of a straight line dissolves and is replaced by the unsettling feeling of falling behind. But Stoicism reminds us that the external world is indifferent. It neither favors nor judges. It simply exists. The sense of being behind does not come from events themselves, but from the judgments we attach to them. The mind measures its worth against arbitrary markers, forgetting that life's path is not uniform and cannot be dictated by others. It is easy to assume the world is racing forward while you struggle to keep up. Yet the true thief of peace is comparison. When you evaluate your life through external timelines, you lose awareness of the work that happens quietly in hidden spaces where effort accumulates without recognition. Think about how perception shapes our experience of milestones. A colleague receives praise. A friend announces a promotion. Someone else celebrates a personal success. Instantly, the mind begins to compare, yet it overlooks the countless hours of preparation, the setbacks endured, and the personal battles that remain invisible. Comparison always captures only a fragment of reality, focusing on results rather than the process, on appearances instead of substance. The gap that seems to exist is often nothing more than selective observation filtered through anxiety and expectation. Meanwhile, progress continues quietly. Skills sharpen, judgment deepens, resilience strengthens, and perspective matures. These invisible developments are the true groundwork of meaningful achievement. By shifting attention toward what is forming within, we regain authority over our perception. Stoic thinkers taught that our internal state is sovereign. External events may exert pressure, but they cannot determine our worth unless we allow them to. The quiet work, the unseen discipline, and the patience that allows growth to unfold, these are the real indicators of progress. The world does not move us forward or hold us back. It is the mind that interprets events, and when interpretation is guided wisely, freedom appears. Comparison is deceptive precisely because it presents itself as clarity. We observe outcomes and assume they reveal a universal timeline, forgetting that every life unfolds along a path shaped by unseen circumstances. Timing differs, resources differ, and challenges differ, yet we judge ourselves as though a single template could measure every journey. Feeling behind is rarely a reflection of reality. It is the mind's mistaken synthesis. When perception is separated from fact and we observe events without layering judgment upon them, a different understanding begins to emerge. Progress is always occurring, though often quietly. Deliberate decisions, skills practiced in silence, and resilience strengthened through small, consistent actions continue accumulating beneath the surface. These developments may never produce dramatic announcements, but they remain just as real. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the happiness of our lives depends upon the quality of our thoughts. Quiet, consistent internal progress holds far more value than any external signal. What the world sees is only the surface. What truly matters is the gradual accumulation of patience, skill, and resilience, forming the base for long-term growth. When attention shifts toward deliberate effort rather than comparison, the feeling of falling behind begins to fade. Each day of thoughtful action contributes to a trajectory that cannot be measured by applause, numbers, or recognition. Progress is deeply personal, internal, and enduring. If these reflections resonate with you, consider subscribing. Surrounding yourself with ideas that sharpen the mind and strengthen character can help you navigate life with clarity and purpose. By engaging with thoughtful insights and Stoic wisdom, you reinforce the values that truly matter and take a conscious step toward mastering your own path. Life's journey is rarely straight. It is non-linear, uneven, and often difficult to perceive while it unfolds. While other people's achievements appear immediate and visible, your own development may be quiet, gradual, and unseen. The mind's urge to compare amplifies only what is visible while ignoring the hidden efforts that build lasting growth. Every step you take, even when unnoticed, compounds into resilience, skill, and deeper understanding that eventually reveals itself through real outcomes. The illusion of delay emerges when we forget the value of invisible work. When the mind begins equating recognition with achievement and visibility with worth, perception becomes distorted. Stoicism teaches that real progress does not depend on external validation, but on the integrity of thought and action. When perception is recalibrated to honor internal growth, the idea of being behind dissolves. What appears to be stagnation may actually be preparation, incubation, and strengthening. Recognizing this shift allows patience to replace anxiety, intentional effort to replace frustration, and presence to replace the illusion of delay. When we observe life without harsh judgment and allow comparison to fade away, clarity gradually appears. You begin to realize that your steps have never stopped. The work has continued quietly, unnoticed by others, accumulating in ways that will eventually reveal their value. External milestones are unreliable measures. What truly endures is the cultivation of wisdom, resilience, and virtue. The Stoic perspective teaches that measurement is internal, grounded in consistent effort and reflection rather than public markers of success. This understanding transforms the way we experience time, struggle, and achievement. The sense of being left behind is replaced with recognition that every choice, every effort, and every lesson learned contributes to a path that belongs entirely to you. There is no universal timeline. There is only the unfolding of the life you are actively shaping. By focusing on what remains under your control, your thoughts, your actions, and your judgments, the mind gradually finds peace. The indifference of the world no longer feels threatening. Perception alone governs experience, and perception can be guided with wisdom and intention. Ultimately, the feeling of being behind becomes an invitation. It calls you to reflect, reclaim authority over your judgments, and redirect attention toward internal growth. Every unseen effort, every quiet skill developed, every deliberate choice is evidence that progress is happening. Stoic philosophy reframes life not as a competition measured by external markers, but as a series of exercises in virtue and resilience. By focusing on effort, reflection, and character, the illusion of falling behind begins to disappear. A disciplined mind recognizes that each step, no matter how small, carries meaning. Comparison becomes unnecessary distortion. What appears to be delay is often the slow unfolding of competence, judgment, and insight. Seen through this perspective, the path remains continuous, purposeful, and aligned with principles that lead to lasting fulfillment. The truth is that this feeling cuts deeper than we often admit. Watching the lives of others unfold can make your own journey appear empty, as if every step you take is too small, too slow, or insignificant. The mind instinctively searches for patterns, benchmarks, and validation, and in doing so, it sometimes works against itself. Comparison arises almost automatically, like a reflex meant to help locate your place in the world. Psychologists describe social comparison as a natural human tendency, a shortcut used to evaluate status, competence, and worth. But while the impulse may be natural, its results are often distorted. The Stoics recognized this tendency long ago and warned that distraction disguised as assessment leads the mind away from purpose and virtue. When we focus on external markers, we become prisoners of other people's lives, evaluating our present and our potential according to criteria entirely outside our control. Promotions, awards, and visible successes resemble shadows cast on a wall, shifting and incomplete. They reveal only what can be seen, not the effort, endurance, and persistence supporting them. We witness the polished outcome, but not the process that created it. This focus on appearances becomes dangerous because it feels factual. Scrolling through social media, we encounter only highlights. A promotion celebrated in photos, a new car proudly displayed, a relationship milestone shared with excitement. The mind interprets these signals as evidence of universal timelines and collective standards, yet they are carefully curated fragments. They exclude mistakes, struggles, doubts, and the countless unseen hours spent learning, practicing, and overcoming obstacles. When perception is limited to these narrow windows, the feeling of lagging behind becomes almost unavoidable. By surrendering attention to these incomplete narratives, the mind gives away its own authority. Your real life becomes overshadowed by someone else's story, even if that story is partial, edited, or exaggerated. Constantly measuring your value against these fragments leads to stress, envy, and frustration, while ignoring the meaningful work unfolding quietly in your own life. Notice the subtle ways comparison shapes emotion. You may feel genuine pride in a personal achievement, only to see that pride dissolve the moment you encounter someone else's highlight. A sense of accomplishment disappears beneath the shadow of another person's moment. This reaction is not objective reality. It is a habit conditioned by exposure to selective images and cultural emphasis on measurable success. Stoic thinkers would describe this as a misdirection of the mind, a failure to separate what lies within our control from what does not. The events themselves are neutral. They are neither good nor bad. Suffering arises from interpretation, from accepting external signals as measures of personal worth. When attention is redirected and perception reframed, the same events that once produced anxiety can instead appear irrelevant to internal progress. Recognition from others has never been the true measure of growth. Only the development of skill, character, and deliberate effort counts. The scoreboard of life is private, and its metrics remain invisible to everyone except you. It is within quiet, unnoticed moments that real development takes place. The work that builds endurance, wisdom, and strength rarely receives applause. Learning new abilities, practicing patience, cultivating discipline, and reflecting on mistakes appear static to outsiders. Yet they accumulate steadily over time. Just as a tree expands underground before it becomes visible above the soil, the mind and character evolve in ways only the individual can perceive. By turning attention inward and measuring progress against your own effort rather than the lives of others, you reclaim authority over growth. Development is no longer dictated by arbitrary comparisons. The feeling of being behind fades because the only timeline that truly matters is your own, shaped through consistent reflection, deliberate effort, and patient practice. What appears to be delay is often preparation. What feels invisible may actually be foundational. The Stoic lesson remains clear. Internal mastery comes first and lasts longer than external validation. Even when society celebrates visibility, it rarely accounts for sustainability. A promotion, a celebrated purchase, or a public recognition may appear to signal success, but it doesn't reveal depth, endurance, or resilience. These visible markers can disappear just as quickly as they appear. Someone might seem ahead in public perception while privately struggling, while the quiet effort you invest continues to grow and compound beyond anyone's sight. When you measure yourself against such surface indicators, you overlook the work that truly matters. Comparison breeds anxiety because it focuses on temporary outcomes instead of enduring qualities. It evaluates only what can be seen, not what is being built, trained, and strengthened beneath the surface. Recognizing this truth is liberating. The measurements of other people's lives hold no authority over your path. When the mind redirects its attention to internal development, it discovers a rhythm that is both sustainable and resilient. The illusion of being behind fades when attention shifts towards self-directed growth, where every effort, no matter how small, contributes meaningfully to the whole. Ultimately, comparison is simply a misdirection of attention. The mind turns outward, trying to measure worth through unreliable signals, creating suffering where none truly exists. Social indicators are fleeting and incomplete fragments of reality filtered through selective exposure. When attention returns inward to effort, reflection, and character development, clarity begins to emerge. Real progress is often invisible at first, unfolding slowly and measured through resilience, judgment, and growing competence. External appearances will never fully reflect the depth of personal experience, nor should they control perception. The Stoic approach is simple yet powerful. Focus on what lies within your control, your thoughts, your actions, and your responses, while letting everything else fall away. Investment in internal growth is durable, meaningful, and untouched by the fleeting measures of others' success. What once felt like falling behind slowly transforms into the quiet and deliberate accumulation of strength, wisdom, and presence, visible only to the one cultivating it. In this understanding, the measure of life is reclaimed, and the perceived lag dissolves into the steady rhythm of self-directed progress. Even the smallest acts of indulgence in comfort can shape the direction of life over time. Endless scrolling, delaying responsibilities, avoiding difficult conversations or decisions, each of these quietly reinforces the illusion that the present moment is sufficient and that growth can always wait for tomorrow. Yet the human mind responds strongly to repetition and reinforcement. Every day spent yielding to comfort strengthens its grip, while the discipline required to challenge it weakens through neglect. Over months and years, this dynamic creates a life where familiarity feels safer than exploration, routine becomes preferable to deliberate effort, and inaction appears more comforting than pursuit. The paradox is striking. What feels protective and reasonable in the moment often becomes the very force that limits expansion and potential. The sense of safety is deceptive. Comfort approaches subtly, yet its influence is persistent. It is not the absence of hardship that becomes harmful. Rather, it is the voluntary avoidance of challenge, the surrender to ease, and the quiet acceptance of mediocrity that gradually erodes the capacity to act. This paradox becomes even clearer when we reflect on time and opportunity. A year spent comfortably repeating routine may feel insignificant in the moment, yet its effects accumulate, shaping patterns that define future capability. The days, weeks, and months spent confronting challenge are not wasted. They are investments in endurance, insight, and skill. Conversely, days surrendered entirely to ease quietly create deficits that later demand effort and discipline to repair. Often, it is only in hindsight that the cost of comfort becomes visible. The roads not taken, the ideas never tested, the strengths left undeveloped. Feeling behind in this sense is not a judgment imposed by the world, but an invitation to examine where energy has been delayed, where courage has been postponed, and where the self has settled for what feels safe rather than what is possible. Awareness of this pattern becomes the first step toward reclaiming direction and taking deliberate action that shifts life away from passive comfort toward conscious growth. Feeling behind is often misunderstood as misfortune, yet it can be interpreted more accurately as a signal. It suggests that life is calling for deliberate effort, that untapped potential exists beneath layers of habitual comfort, and that character is waiting to emerge through action. The presence of comfort reveals exactly where challenge is required. When this is confronted quietly and consistently, the mind begins to recognize that what once felt like stagnation may actually be preparation. What seemed like delay may be the incubation of skill. What appeared as limitation may reveal itself as opportunity. Every decision to resist comfort reshapes perception, recalibrates ambition, and strengthens personal agency. Growth rarely appears instantly, and it is not always visible, but it accumulates steadily, producing durable and transformative change. To feel behind is not failure. It is awareness. To act deliberately against comfort is not punishment. It is investment. A mind trained in this way begins to see time and progress differently, understanding that what truly matters is not external recognition, but the cultivation of effort, skill, and resilience. By embracing struggle intentionally, apparent delay becomes meaningful preparation. The quiet chains of comfort transform into the foundations of strength and endurance. Perspective also becomes the antidote to envy. Recognizing that visible success does not guarantee inner fulfillment shifts the entire orientation of thought. The person who appears ahead may seem to move faster, achieve more, or live more fully, yet outward advancement does not necessarily reflect the quality of inner life. External gains can arrive at the cost of peace, wisdom, or integrity. It is entirely possible to reach milestones while feeling internally empty. On the other hand, slow progress, quiet discipline, and unseen effort often cultivate a depth of satisfaction invisible to observers. The psychologist Carl Jung reflected on this dimension of human development, noting that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The true measure of life is not how one compares with others, but how one develops authenticity, insight, and self-mastery. The achievements of another person's path may have little relevance to your own values. The real question is not how far others have gone, but whether your own direction fosters depth, meaning, and resilience. This realization allows the mind to act deliberately instead of reactively. It becomes possible to step away from the endless treadmill of comparison and focus instead on internal measures of progress. Effort, consistency, patience, and reflection become the genuine indicators of development. Each intentional action, no matter how small, contributes to long-term growth. In contrast, constant focus on the visible outcomes of others produces distraction and dissatisfaction. Life is lived from within, not through the external snapshots we observe in others. Those snapshots, however impressive they appear, remain incomplete. They conceal the struggles, doubts, and sacrifices that accompany every achievement. By valuing internal development above external recognition, the mind establishes its own definition of success, one that is resilient against perception, envy, and societal pressure. Understanding the hidden dimensions of life reframes the feeling of being behind. The person who seems ahead may in reality carry unseen burdens. Their achievements may involve costs you would never choose or goals that do not align with your purpose. When this perspective is internalized, the mind gradually releases judgment, comparison, and anxiety. Growth becomes the standard, not visibility. Effort, integrity, patience, and reflection become the true indicators of advancement, independent of what can be publicly observed. The perceived distance between you and someone else is often nothing more than an illusion created by attention to appearances rather than substance, to signals rather than processes. Freedom emerges when the mind shifts its focus from external comparison toward internal cultivation. Happiness, fulfillment, and mastery arise not from racing to imitate others, but from patiently building skills, resilience, and character aligned with one's own values. Stoicism anchors this insight in a simple discipline: distinguish what is within your control and release what is not. External signals, recognition, and milestones exist outside your command. Your effort, your judgment, and your growth remain entirely within it. When this orientation is adopted, the anxiety of appearing behind begins to dissolve. One realizes that the appearance of being ahead or behind holds no real significance. What truly matters is the depth, consistency, and integrity of one's own actions and intentions. Ultimately, the mind that constantly measures itself against others loses its sovereignty. The person who instead chooses internal standards of growth regains agency, establishes durable sources of satisfaction, and cultivates resilience. The apparent advantages of others often dissolve upon closer examination, revealing hidden trade-offs, compromises, and struggles behind their milestones. Perspective transforms into clarity. Observation becomes discernment. Life then ceases to be a competition and becomes a cultivation, a deliberate investment in what truly matters: wisdom, resilience, skill, and alignment with values. The perception of being behind gradually fades, replaced by recognition of progress defined internally and independent of fleeting external markers. What once appeared enviable becomes an opportunity for reflection, discernment, and conscious development. Struggle itself is not an interruption of life. It is evidence that life is being lived fully. Difficulty, resistance, and effort are signs that the mind and body are actively engaged in growth, even when the results are not immediately visible. To face discomfort willingly is to participate directly in reality rather than retreat into safety. Every challenge, every obstacle, every moment that tests patience, skill, or endurance is proof that the individual has stepped into the arena of life. It is easy to mistake struggle for failure and assume hardship signals weakness, yet this interpretation is flawed. The Stoics understood that adversity is a natural component of existence, and that character is forged through engagement with difficulty, not through comfort. Each effort that meets resistance becomes an opportunity to strengthen judgment, develop resilience, and refine virtue. The friction encountered in meaningful pursuits strengthens the mind in ways that ease never could, creating internal resources capable of sustaining creativity, growth, and clarity over time. Facing struggle demands courage because the mind's natural tendency is to avoid discomfort. Human beings are wired to seek safety, familiarity, and predictability, and without deliberate action, this instinct can lead to paralysis. Yet Stoic wisdom recognizes that avoidance itself becomes a self-imposed limitation. Discomfort, though unpleasant, contains lessons that comfort cannot teach. It sharpens attention, deepens perspective, and strengthens inner faculties. Each challenge confronted directly compounds over time. The mind that learns to tolerate difficulty develops sharper judgment and stronger problem-solving ability than one that consistently chooses ease. By stepping into the arena of effort, the individual reclaims agency and cultivates competence, recognizing that adversity is not punishment, but an essential element of development. Struggle also confirms presence. To live fully means risking failure, confronting uncertainty, and engaging in experiences that are meaningful rather than merely safe. The statesman Theodore Roosevelt once described this as being in the arena, where one's face may be marked by dust, sweat, and effort. The metaphor captures the essence of genuine engagement. Effort must meet reality directly. The world cannot be controlled entirely, yet deliberate action within its boundaries allows growth to emerge. Every challenge, personal, professional, or relational, strengthens the ability to respond skillfully. Progress is not defined only by visible outcomes, but by the refinement of inner faculties, patience, judgment, and resilience in the face of unpredictability. Being present in the arena signifies that life is being lived deliberately rather than passively, and that each challenge encountered becomes a tool for greater competence and insight. Participation in life's difficulties also prepares the mind for future growth. The experiences endured today form a reserve of skill, knowledge, and resilience that will support future challenges. struggle compounds over time. The endurance built today expands the capacity to navigate tomorrow's adversity. A mind accustomed to engagement becomes more adaptable, more observant, and more resilient in judgment. Gradually, the individual learns that discomfort is not something to escape, but something to navigate consciously. In this way, struggle becomes proof not of failure, but of continuous investment, evidence that the mind is actively cultivating the faculties that lead to wisdom, achievement, and self-mastery. Psychologically, the way we interpret struggle determines what it becomes. When difficulty is accepted deliberately, it turns into something transformative rather than destructive. The difference lies in perception. A mind that sees struggle as training converts temporary discomfort into lasting growth. Every moment of engagement strengthens inner resources, sharpens judgment, and builds emotional stability. Conversely, a mind that views challenges as disasters or proof of inadequacy begins to experience stress, anxiety, and a decline in confidence. By reframing adversity as a natural part of deliberate living, a person regains control and redirects energy away from fear and toward constructive effort. Over time, the process reinforces itself. The more willingly someone embraces struggle, the more capable they become of facing future challenges with calmness, clarity, and effectiveness. Ultimately, the presence of struggle is proof that you are actively participating in your life, rather than merely watching from the sidelines. Every failure, obstacle, and moment of doubt signals engagement, courage, and preparation. Stepping into difficulty is an act of agency. It develops competence and gradually builds wisdom. Stoic philosophy teaches that life's arena is not designed for passive observers, but for thoughtful action, reflection, and steady improvement. Every challenge faced, every discomfort endured, and every risk taken becomes a marker of a life fully lived. Progress is not measured through comparison with others, but through the internal cultivation of character and capability. To struggle is to be alive, to be present, and to develop the capacity required for a meaningful life. Yet the human mind often misunderstands this process. In a culture that celebrates instant gratification and visible achievement, it becomes easy to feel as though you are falling behind. Hours of quiet practice may seem pointless because there is no immediate reward or public recognition. Social comparison intensifies this illusion. The achievements of others are visible, while your own preparation remains hidden. However, the Stoic perspective reminds us that what remains unseen is frequently far more significant than what is publicly displayed. External outcomes may feel satisfying, but they are temporary indicators. The deeper qualities formed through sustained effort, such as resilience, judgment, and skill, are far more lasting. The sensation of delay is often nothing more than the natural waiting period that accompanies the development of mastery. Progress continues even when it cannot be immediately seen. The real challenge is maintaining discipline and focus while the results of effort remain invisible. Consider an athlete whose long hours of training pass unnoticed. Every repetition, every drill, and every correction may seem monotonous or unrewarding in the moment. Yet these hours quietly build the foundation for endurance, performance, and adaptability. The same principle applies to an artist who spends months refining a single technique. Through repetition and careful adjustment, depth and precision gradually emerge. A thinker who dedicates time to reading, experimenting, and reflecting gathers insights that shape judgment in subtle yet powerful ways. In each case, the visible outcome is merely the surface of a much larger structure built quietly beneath. The work itself, carried out consistently and patiently, becomes the true measure of progress. Recognition from others is neither required nor sufficient to validate genuine effort. The Stoic understands that the process matters more than the result. Outcomes simply reflect the work, they do not define it. For many people, anxiety arises from the gap between perception and reality. The mind naturally gravitates toward comparison and measurable outcomes. When these visible markers are absent, effort can appear meaningless, and the feeling of being behind becomes stronger. Yet this interpretation is flawed. What appears to be delay is often preparation, a silent incubation period during which competence, judgment, and character quietly develop. Lasting success rarely appears suddenly. Skill, understanding, and resilience grow slowly, layer by layer, through consistent work over long periods of time. When a person truly understands this process, patience replaces frustration and confidence replaces doubt. What seems like stagnation often turns out to be steady accumulation, and the process itself gradually transforms the individual. Even small and consistent actions contribute to mastery over time. Reading to deepen understanding, writing to clarify ideas, practicing a skill repeatedly, or engaging in thoughtful conversation may appear insignificant when viewed individually. However, their cumulative impact is profound. A mind shaped by patience, a body strengthened through repetition, and judgment refined through reflection eventually produce outcomes that are durable and adaptable. While the outside world may not immediately recognize this accumulation, the internal transformation taking place is powerful. Stoic philosophy emphasizes that mastery is primarily an internal achievement. Visible success is secondary. What truly matters is the development of capability, discipline, and clarity of thought. Those who recognize the value of unseen effort cultivate deep focus and perseverance. They understand that immediate recognition is unreliable and that external validation is inconsistent. True progress must therefore be measured internally. This mindset creates resilience against comparison, impatience, and distraction. By valuing the hidden process rather than the visible result, individuals align their effort with principles rather than public approval. This alignment allows them to continue moving forward even when the path appears uncertain. This idea reflects the core of Stoic practice, concentrating on what lies within one's control, carefully cultivating skill and virtue, and remaining detached from external markers that exist beyond personal influence. The feeling of being behind is often intensified by impatience, yet it usually reflects a misunderstanding of timing. Skill does not appear instantly. Preparation always comes before performance. A disciplined and patient mind understands that development requires time. Each repetition, each adjustment, and each small improvement contributes to a growing reservoir of ability. Eventually, external outcomes begin to mirror internal preparation, but the invisible labor that precedes those outcomes must be valued for its own sake. Recognizing the importance of unseen work enables a person to persist without anxiety and to continue learning and practicing even when immediate results are absent. This is one of the defining principles of mastery: patience, consistency, and trust in the process. The Stoic thinker Marcus Aurelius once reflected that no person can be happy unless he believes himself to be so. Happiness, like skill, is cultivated internally and does not depend on external approval. Growth in judgment, character, and competence produces a form of satisfaction that exists independently of applause or comparison. The hours spent practicing patiently, repeating difficult tasks, and reflecting deeply are investments in this internal state. A mind that values hidden progress aligns its efforts with purpose. It accepts the delay that naturally accompanies skill development and finds fulfillment in steady, deliberate work. From this perspective, the feeling of being behind is simply reinterpreted as the natural rhythm of growth, a process that is gradual, consistent, and ultimately transformative. What the world eventually sees is only the final result. What truly matters is the quiet cultivation happening beneath the surface, the invisible work that slowly builds lasting capability. Life rarely moves along a straight or predictable path. We mark days and months on a calendar, but these are simply human systems of measurement, not true indicators of progress, value, or potential. Stoic thinkers recognized that external timing is largely irrelevant. What truly matters is the endurance developed along the journey, the persistence maintained during uncertainty, and the deliberate investment made in effort and character. Some people appear to move quickly at the beginning, reaching milestones that everyone can see, while others develop slowly and quietly, their progress unnoticed by most observers. Yet the long-term direction of achievement is rarely determined by the speed of early progress. Consistent effort, disciplined practice, and the gradual accumulation of resilience produce outcomes that unfold in their own time. When these results finally appear, they can seem sudden or surprising because society tends to measure only what is visible. External achievements such as recognition, awards, and milestones are incomplete indicators of real progress. They fail to account for the hidden foundations that support them: preparation, endurance, adaptability, and the steady development of judgment and skill. Comparing ourselves to others easily leads to misunderstanding. When we witness someone else's early success, it can feel as though they are already ahead while we remain delayed or insufficient. Yet this comparison overlooks the invisible factors that shape achievement. The circumstances that supported another person's progress, the preparation they undertook, and the resilience they developed are rarely visible. Their struggles, failures, and lessons often remain hidden. Over time, however, persistence compounds quietly like interest, building strength, skill, and judgment that the world may eventually notice, even if that recognition arrives later than expected. Life is not a series of short races judged by public approval. It resembles a long journey of character where steady effort matters far more than speed or attention. Once the mind begins to see life through this lens, the illusion of being late gradually disappears. It is replaced by the understanding that progress depends on engagement, endurance, and the cultivation of lasting virtues rather than on external milestones. Life moves in rhythms and cycles, and meaningful outcomes rarely emerge from a single effort. Instead, they arise from the accumulation of many small and deliberate actions. Each day spent focusing, reflecting, and working with intention quietly contributes to mastery. What appears to be a lack of progress is often simply the incubation period during which competence, judgment, and resilience are forming out of sight. The athlete who trains alone, the writer who revises endlessly, and the thinker who studies patiently all understand that effort accumulates even when it cannot yet be seen. True success is seldom sudden. It grows from persistence, repeated practice, and continuous engagement with challenges over time. The external world may remain indifferent to this process, yet the individual who appreciates the value of consistent effort develops patience, foresight, and emotional balance. Endurance becomes a far more reliable measure than any scoreboard, and character becomes the genuine indicator of achievement. The illusion of being behind often appears when progress is judged by visibility rather than substance. The mind naturally seeks comparison, benchmarks, and immediate feedback. However, these indicators offer only a partial and often misleading view of reality. Stoic philosophy suggests that the most reliable measure of progress lies within the individual. effort guided by principle, skill cultivated through patience, and character strengthened through persistence provide a more meaningful evaluation than external validation ever could. When attention shifts away from comparison, the mind becomes free from envy, anxiety, and distraction. What once seemed like falling behind begins to look like necessary preparation. Each day of steady effort, even when unnoticed, strengthens judgment, builds resilience, and prepares a person for challenges that cannot yet be predicted. The relationship between persistence and timing reveals the deeper nature of achievement. A seed planted today may require years before it produces fruit, yet its development is real even while hidden. In the same way, work invested in learning, judgment, and resilience accumulates gradually until its effects eventually become visible. This principle applies across every area of life, whether intellectual growth, emotional maturity, professional development, or creative expression. Persistence is the mechanism through which potential transforms into real ability. When the mind fully understands this, it begins to develop patience, perspective, and trust in the process of growth itself. Progress is then measured by commitment to effort, rather than by the immediate appearance of results. The idea of being late often arises from misunderstanding how time and development truly work. It reflects a gap between perception and reality. Once this is recognized, the sense of delay no longer dominates emotion or self-judgment. Each person's path unfolds differently, shaped by circumstances, preparation, resilience, and opportunities that appear at unpredictable moments. Comparing one path with another ignores these complexities and creates a distorted impression of progress. Someone who appears ahead may have benefited from circumstances or timing that cannot be replicated. Meanwhile, a path that appears slower may actually be building deeper capabilities that will lead to greater achievements later. A mind that values the process more than appearances, persistence more than speed, and inner growth more than external praise develops a clarity that prevents unnecessary anxiety and encourages purposeful action. Each consistent effort gradually compounds into outcomes aligned with skill and principle, even if recognition arrives later than expected. In the end, life tends to reward those who persist with integrity, regardless of when visible results appear. External acknowledgement may lag behind effort, recognition may arrive slowly, and outcomes may emerge only after long periods of dedication. Yet the individual who practices patience, consistency, and deliberate effort develops competence, resilience, and character that endure. Progress measured by inner growth rises above the shallow standards imposed by comparison or social expectation. When this understanding takes hold, the feeling of being behind fades away. Life begins to appear as a series of unfolding cycles where persistence steadily compounds and character becomes the true measure of success. Delay loses its power as an emotional burden when effort remains consistent and principled. The direction of one's life aligns not with fleeting appearances, but with enduring values. Adversity also plays an important role in this process. Rather than acting as an obstacle, it becomes a training ground where endurance is strengthened and insight is sharpened. Every challenge presents an opportunity to practice patience, discipline, and courage. Those who confront hardship deliberately, rather than avoiding discomfort, strengthen abilities that continue to serve them long after the difficulty has passed. The setbacks that once seemed overwhelming gradually become evidence of engagement rather than proof of failure. The Stoic perspective places control firmly within the individual. External events do not determine the quality of life, the internal response to them does. How a person handles uncertainty, discomfort, and the unknown becomes the real measure of progress. This inner orientation carries far greater significance than any external benchmark created by others. Persistence in obscurity offers one of the most powerful lessons of all. Many of life's greatest gains develop in moments that go unnoticed, in efforts that receive no recognition, and in periods when dedication is invisible to the outside world. The mind often equates visibility with progress, yet the growth of skill, character, and resilience usually occurs quietly. Every disciplined action, every thoughtful decision, and every challenge faced with determination gradually shapes deeper competence and clearer judgment. Over time, these accumulated efforts strengthen the individual internally until their effects eventually appear externally, sometimes in unexpected ways. Patience then becomes more than passive waiting. It becomes active participation in personal development. Those who remain committed in private, who endure repetition and routine without immediate reward, cultivate strengths that others may not yet recognize. In this way, feeling behind is not proof of failure. It is simply a misunderstanding created by perception that does not match the slow and deliberate rhythm of growth. True resilience forms the foundation of a meaningful life. It is the ability to endure hardship, maintain calm during challenges, and move through uncertainty with clarity and intention. External rewards such as wealth, recognition, or status may rise and fall or fail to bring lasting satisfaction. In contrast, resilience built through consistent effort and thoughtful responses to difficulty becomes durable and self-reinforcing. It allows a person to approach life with purpose rather than reaction. Deliberate action guided by reflection gradually shapes both outcomes and character. Ultimately, the story of a life is not written by circumstances alone, but by the steady, conscious engagement with each moment as it unfolds. Internal development is enduring, while external circumstances are fleeting. The sense of being behind often arises when attention is diverted toward others instead of one's own path. Comparison obscures the significance of effort invested, lessons learned through struggle, and growth achieved in unseen moments. Life advances at the pace of deliberate action, not according to external timelines. Those who anchor their judgment in personal values, principle, and effort experience genuine progress independent of external measurement. What goes unnoticed today may serve as the foundation for achievements tomorrow, producing results and satisfaction that were invisible in earlier stages. Stoicism teaches that control resides in the choices we make, the cultivation of virtue, judgment, and wisdom. By embracing this perspective, the mind releases the illusion of being behind, aligning effort with enduring measures of progress rather than superficial signals. Every response to adversity becomes an act of character formation. By choosing reflection over reaction, patience over impatience, and persistence over surrender, the individual shapes a self that endures beyond circumstance. The accumulation of these choices, not the accumulation of external markers, determines the trajectory of life. Feeling behind is temporary, contingent on comparison and perception. Preparation, patience, and deliberate action are permanent, embedded in character and habit. Each conscious choice strengthens judgment, reinforces resilience, and contributes to a coherent, meaningful life. What appears as delay or misalignment is often an essential part of growth and preparation. Life's narrative is defined not by beginnings, but by endings. A rocky start, a period of perceived lag, or an extended trial does not dictate the quality or significance of the whole. It is perseverance, integrity, and consistent engagement that shape the ultimate story. Every deliberate action, every decision to cultivate skill and virtue, regardless of recognition or reward, is a brushstroke in the painting of a meaningful life. Progress is internal, cumulative, and durable. It is measured by alignment with principle, endurance of character, and cultivation of insight. External benchmarks are secondary. Internal development is primary. The rhythm of life is set by deliberate engagement, not by external visibility or comparative success. Epictetus reminds us that it is not what happens to you, but how you respond that matters. This principle captures the essence of measuring life through internal metrics. While external events, challenges, and outcomes may lie beyond control, the mind's orientation toward them is sovereign. Reaction shapes experience. Persistence, reflection, and deliberate action transform obstacles into growth opportunities. Each choice aligned with principle reinforces character, builds competence, and fortifies resilience. Feeling behind dissolves when focus is directed toward what is within control. Preparation, patience, and deliberate engagement define the trajectory of a meaningful life. Ultimately, your story unfolds according to the pace of courage, discipline, and principle. The external world will always present challenges, distractions, and markers that provoke comparison, yet these are irrelevant to internal measures of growth. The individual who cultivates virtue, skill, and resilience navigates life intentionally, measures progress internally, and interprets challenges as opportunities rather than failures. Feeling behind is fleeting. Character is enduring. Preparation and consistent effort create a trajectory that is steady, cumulative, and meaningful, independent of external approval or timelines. The rhythm of personal engagement, the alignment of effort with principle, and the cultivation of resilience constitute the ultimate measure of life, far surpassing any fleeting public signal or comparison. At the end of the day, life is not defined by the pace of others, by temporary markers, or by the shadows of comparison. It is defined by the courage displayed in quiet moments, the effort invested when no one is watching, and the patience cultivated as skills, character, and wisdom grow silently. Every struggle, setback, and deliberate choice contributes to your story, and it is yours alone. Remember that the path unfolds at the pace of persistence, not the world's applause. Keep moving forward, keep showing up. And when you pause to reflect, recognize the strength, insight, and resilience you have built along the way.